everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to my first video on here. So if you don't know me, my name's Kat, I've just turned 30 and I live in the UK. I have another hobby outside of books, which is decorative planning. If you don't know what that is, think about kind of diaries from school or journals, any kind of sort of planning elements. And we use stickers and pens and decorative elements to make planning and organizing more fun. It's quite a difficult hobby to explain, but if you're interested in finding out more, I will have a link to my planning YouTube channel down below. I also have a lot of posts over on my Instagram. So you can check that out and see what you think to see whether it's something you would find interesting. But I've been doing that since about 2016 on social media. Recently, I came across the booktube community in about February of this year, and I used to be a really avid reader when I was younger, but I have really fallen back in love with reading this year. And I like producing content for social media, given that I've been doing it for kind of 5 or 6 years at this point. And so I thought that maybe this would be a good new additional direction to take my social media content planning in. I do have some book content over on my planning YouTube channel, but it made sense to make its own YouTube channel. It means that then anyone interested in just book content could watch book content, anyone interested in just planning content could watch planning content. There is some crossovers and there's a very few people that have managed to do that successfully on social media, but for me, I think it's going to make sense to have it on 2 separate channels. So that's why I've made this booktube channel, and I really hope that you'll stick around to see the kinds of things that I'll be posting. In terms of my plans for this channel, I'm kind of thinking it will be probably pretty standard in terms of a booktube channel, posting things like TBRs, reading wrap-ups, book recommendations, book reviews, potentially some reading vlogs as well. I did vlog for a little bit on my planning channel, and so I'm kind of keen to get back into that. If you do have any ideas for content that you would like to see, please let me know in the description down below. I work full-time alongside being, I'm not going to call myself a content creator because I don't think I am, but alongside making content, I do work full-time. And so I am someone who I hope can be somewhat of someone that might mirror maybe kind of more traditionally to your lifestyle. I really admire anyone who's a full-time content creator. To have put in that much effort and time to be able to make money from this full-time is so awesome, and I think people have done such a good job with that, and it's such an exciting industry. I am not there, and I think I'm probably a really long time from, if ever, being there. And so I am hoping to be somebody who is maybe someone that you can follow as someone who might match the sorts of number of books that you can read and things like that. There's no way that I would be able to read 100 books in a year. I've read 25 so far this year, which is a huge achievement for me. And I've seen some other content creators feeling like that's a really small year for them. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a really huge number of books for me. So I may not be for everybody. So I'm hoping to kind of be someone you can see yourself in amongst all the other awesome content that's being produced on this platform. So when I was thinking about what I wanted my first video on this channel to be, I was actually planning to post it yesterday on the 1st of August, but here we are, it's the 2nd of August. And the video that I wanted to post was my August TBR. Now, TBR videos are something that's a little bit different for me because I am not really at a stage where I know confidently enough how much I can read each month in order to plan an appropriate TBR. I also am such a mood reader. So even if I have a list of books that I would like to get to, I'm so taken by mood. And because I work full time and because I am not a very experienced adult reader at this level, at this stage, it feels like it makes sense to me to just read what I'm in the mood for, to make sure I'm getting through books rather than to be put in a reading slump by not being able to read something that's on a TBR. However, you will have seen from the title of this video, it is an August TBR video. The idea being that at least for now, I am just going to talk to you about some of the books I'm hoping to get to in the upcoming month, and then we'll see what I get to. So that's kind of the plan for this video. It's also my first time taking part in a readathon. So readathons are something that's taken me a little while to get my head around in BookTube, but basically, for those of you that don't know, readathons are run by content creators, and they will give you potentially a theme, and you need to read books in that theme. And there might be some prompts, and these could be things like read a book with 3 words in the title, or read a book that has this color cover, or something like that. So there's loads of readathons out there. I cannot keep up with how many of them, and I think August is the busiest month for readathons based on the videos that I've watched. So I've decided to start with quite a low-key readathon, in my opinion, but I think it's going to be the perfect one for me to start with. So I'm going to be taking part in Polarthon, which is led by Jade Ray Reads, and I will link to Jade's video down below where she talks about Polarthon. You've probably heard of this if you're in the booktube community, but if, like me, you're relatively new or you're just following my channel because you're generally interested in seeing me talk about some book content, Polarthon is a readathon which is traditionally kind of based on reading sort of winter themed books, but Jade has decided to kind of get rid of that for this readathon, and it's just read anything. You can read anything. There are no prompts. She has come up with some prompts in case people want them, but you really don't have to take part in the prompts. It's very much just read whatever. The idea behind this readathon is to raise money, and this is what has really kind of hit me. I love to raise money and to donate to different charities, and I think this is a really good way to raise awareness for a charity I've personally not heard of before, which is Polar Bears International. So what Jade is doing and a lot of other content creators are doing is for every 100 pages they read, they are donating £1 to Polar Bear International. And I really love this idea. I don't think that reading with prompts would be that great an idea for me. I've been out of work for like 3 weeks as part of the summer break, and I'm going back to work tomorrow. And August is a challenging month for me at work. And so having a kind of goal of how many books I need to read or particular prompts I have to fulfill is probably not going to work for me. So I would much rather just mood read my way through the month, but I really like the idea of donating for every 100 pages I read. So I'm also going to be doing that. I don't know how many pages I will read. I haven't been tracking how many pages I've read up till now. I read a lot of graphic novels, so I can get through a lot of pages even if they don't have a lot of words. I'm hoping that I will make a decent dent through a number of pages so that I can donate to Polar Bear International. So that's my plan. We'll see how it goes. If you are interested in joining, obviously you can follow all the information in Jade Ray Reads' video. She has a link to the Just Giving page, which is how people are donating. There's also merch. I did buy the Polarthon bookmarks, but they're not here yet. I think there must be a delay in the post because I'm still waiting on quite a lot of things from my birthday, which was like a week ago. People have kind of said, have you got my present yet? Have you got my card yet? I'm like, no. So I think just like the delays in raw mail and stuff like that, we're still waiting on some stuff. The post is here, super exciting. These are the Polarthon bookmarks from Daisy and B. So this is a shop that's run by Jade Ray Reads and Steph Loves. This was the double pack. These are so cute. I'm so excited these are here for technically my first day of Polarthon, so that's super exciting. So very happy to have those, and as I said, proceeds from the sales of these do go to Polar Bears International, so if you do pick these up, then you will be supporting the charities even if you can't donate as part of the readathon. I also realised that's something I don't say as part of this video. There is absolutely no sort of obligation for you to donate as part of it. Just every 100 pages you read, you catch a fish, and that's like the part of the fun of the readathon. You can just choose to donate if you want to. Jade Ray Reads explains it a lot more in her video, so please check that out, but there is no obligation for you to donate. Just I want to donate as part of what I'm doing. But yes, super excited to have these, and this is another way that you can support Polar Bear International if you want to, and again, you can check this out in Jade Ray Reads video. So the plan is that I will just show you the books that are kind of on my radar as things that I'm going to hopefully be getting to in the next month. As I say, I'm a mood reader. I will just read what I want, but I thought I would give you a bit of an idea of kind of upcoming books that I'm hoping to read so you can get a bit of an idea of what I might get through this month. So I've just realised I've not really told you about the books I kind of like to read to see whether you would even like to subscribe to this channel. So my top genre I would say is romance. I've always been a romance reader. I have a real on and off history with reading, but for most of my adult life I've been a romance reader. So that's probably the main thing. I'm also really interested in fantasy. So there's a couple of things that I've been reading around fantasy, and graphic novels has been the biggest thing I've got into. We'll blame Heartstopper for that. Look at my wonky shelves in the background where I've taken so many books off them for this video. We can blame Heartstopper for me getting into graphic novels, but I absolutely love them. They are such easy reads for me. They really help with the like feeling of success of getting through a book, so I really love that. So graphic novels as well, I'm a big fan of. I'm also hoping to get into some more kind of YA and middle grade. I do read a little bit of YA, well I do because like there's Heartstopper, so I do actually read a fair amount of YA, but I'm hoping to get into some middle grade as well. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what I'm like. I don't read horror. There's nothing I don't think that could convince me to read horror. I'm considering getting into some murder mysteries, and I'll talk more about that in a future video. But for now, these are the genres that I read. So let's start with the romances. So the first book, which I need to finish this month, is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I am on page 238. So I'm a fair amount way through this book already, but I would obviously like to finish it this month. Because it's taken me a while to read this just because of like having been away and stuff in the last month. There's no way that a romance should have taken me this long to read, so I would really like to finish this. If you don't know about this story, it follows Delilah and Claire. So this is a sapphic romance, and Delilah knows Claire from her childhood. She's been invited to her stepsister's wedding to be the photographer, and she sees Claire for the first time in many, many years since she came back to Bright Falls, which is where she's from. And it's kind of following Delilah dealing with some of the trauma from her childhood. So there are some trigger warnings in here around sort of parent death. So she's sort of dealing with some of that whilst also realizing these feelings that she has for Claire. Claire has a kind of complicated life. She has a daughter with a guy that she was with, and they had her daughter Ruby quite young, and Josh is kind of coming back into her life and trying to sort of create a relationship with Ruby. And so Claire is trying to sort of manage her feelings for Josh, her feelings for Delilah, and also managing the parenting of a preteen. So that's effectively what this book is about. I'm enjoying it so far. It's not necessarily my favorite romance that I've ever read, but I am enjoying it. I also love the cover. It's going to look so cute on my shelves. So I will do a tour of these, but I do have some kind of rainbow shelves now, and this will look very cute in the purple section of my shelves. So I love that as well. One other thing I really like about this is one of the characters, Izzy, owns a planning business. So in some ways, this is the perfect book for me. So yeah, I really like that element of it. And we are getting 2 more in this series. We're getting one book following Astrid, which is Delilah's stepsister, and then we're getting a book following Izzy as well. So I'm looking forward to those. I think the second one is coming out in a few months' time. So I like the writing style of this. I'll definitely read some more, even if it's not my favorite romance ever. But yes, so first off, I need to finish Delilah Green Doesn't Care. In terms of other romances, so I have just remembered that what is it called? Love on the Brain? Stuck on the Brain? I can't think what it's called, but the new Ali Hazelwood book is coming out this month, and on I think the 23rd of August, and I did pre-order that, so I will be reading that the second that it's in my hands. I absolutely love Ali Hazelwood, so I'm really, really excited for that one. So that will get read this month. I'm also thinking of reading the novellas by Ali Hazelwood. I would have preferred a physical copy. I just prefer to read physically, which is a bit weird because I was a really, really big ebook reader for like the last 10 years, but I much prefer physical books now. And I think I was kind of waiting in case they ever got a physical release, but that doesn't seem to be happening. I don't like the ebooks. I listen to samples. They're so American, and I watch so much American TV, but for some reason, I just don't like the audio of these particular audiobooks. So I will be getting those on ebook, and I think those would be really easy reads. So I'm thinking of reading those this month as well. If I then got to any other romances, I have loads of romances on my shelf, so I have loads I could read. 2 that I'm kind of thinking that I most might want to get to. One of them is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. So this is about Jess, who is really into numbers and data. She becomes part of a kind of matchmaking company that are figuring out the sort of perfect equation for love. And obviously, as someone who's really into data, she's really interested in that. She gets matched with the founder. They get dragged into a fake dating romance to try and promote this matchmaking company, even though Jess doesn't think they're actually matched for each other. So I'm interested in reading this. I think it's got pretty good reviews, so that's definitely one. And then another one is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, though this is so chunky for a romance. It feels really long, although it's only like 400 pages, but it feels really chunky compared to a normal romance. This is one of the most popular romances that I've seen on BookTube, so I am really interested in reading about this. I'm more interested in reading Hook, Line and Sinker than this one, but they are part of the same series, which is really, really typical of romance novels, that they kind of run in a series, and they're not necessarily connected, like you don't have to have read them all, but characters from the books are going to come up in some of the other books. So typically you kind of need to have read them. I purchased Hook, Line and Sinker before purchasing this, and I've only kind of purchased this one because of it being the first one in the series. And I think that's why it's taken me longer to get to this, because I feel like I'm more interested in the second one. The reason I'm less interested in this one is I think it's because Piper is a kind of really like glamorous lifestyle, and it's about her kind of settling into this new smaller town life. It says it's kind of Schitt's Creek inspired, and this isn't really the kind of thing that I would like to read. I'm not sure that's the kind of heroine that I would choose to read a book about, but I'm thinking that this is probably one I will try and get to. I've also ordered a box set of Victoria Walters. If you don't know Victoria, she actually has a YouTube channel. She is one of the kindest people that you could ever speak to. She's an author, and she has a romance series which is called Glendale Hall. I read the first one of those last year, but I found a bundle on Amazon, so I've now purchased all the ones that are available in the series. And also she has some murder mysteries as well, which I didn't think I would be interested in, but having become obsessed with Only Murders in the Building on Disney Plus, I now think I would like to read those, and the box set for those is coming on Friday, so it might be that those get prioritized just because Victoria is like one of the nicest people, and I would love to read some more of her books because I really enjoyed the first one in the Glendale Hall series. So it might be that all of that gets superseded by this, but those are the romance books that I'm thinking of reading this month. Let's then get into some YA and middle grade. So I went to Yauk back in July, and I will be doing a Yauk haul video. So I have quite a lot of YA on my shelves right now. And the one that I'm probably most interested in reading is Love and Great Expectations by Becky Dean. I love the cover for this book. Also, it's like an American print copy, so it's super floppy, which I love. American editions of books are so much more fun than UK editions. If you don't know, because I didn't before watching BookTube, American editions of books are so much floppier. They have a much kind of thinner spine, I guess, that means that when you read them, it's not going to crease the spine. Whereas UK editions, my copy of Jade City is like so creased on the spine. So I actually much prefer reading like American editions. They are taller than UK books though, which is also super interesting. But yes, this is like an American edition, super floppy. So this story follows Britt and Luke. So Britt is an American, and she ends up going on a scavenger hunt to England to try and win a competition, and it's based on the locations of classic novels. But she meets Luke in England, and he is like super bookish, and Luke isn't supposed to help with the scavenger hunt, but she invites him to do so, and then it kind of follows them completing the scavenger hunt, but also I assume them falling in love. So it sounds super adorable, and I'm really interested in reading this. I'm trying to read some books this month that have less reviews on Goodreads, just because I think that one part of BookTube and book social media is that you often hear about the same books, and you kind of read the stuff that's super popular, and I'm really keen to read some stuff that doesn't have as much traction, to try and get some more noise going about some of those books. And this one didn't have that many reviews, so I mean, and also I think of all the books I bought at Yauk, this is probably the one I'm most excited to read, so I'm thinking that I might try and get to this one this month. Another YA romance that I'm interested in reading is You, Me and Our Heartstrings by Melissa C. And this I think it's such a really unique concept for a book, but also it is kind of musical. I'm a musical person, my degree's in musical theatre, so I think that this will be a really good book for me. So it's about Daisy and Noah, who both want to study music at Juilliard, and they're asked to play a duet. Noah really wants to stick to tradition and is really worried about playing this duet. Daisy loves to take risks, and they go ahead and do the duet, and it's perfect, and it goes viral on social media, but they realise that social media isn't all it's cracked up to be, and so it's kind of following how they deal with that. Daisy also has cerebral palsy, and Noah has anxiety disorder. So I have anxiety, and so I think I didn't read this last month because I was kind of worried about being triggered by this book, but I actually think it would probably be good for me to read it. I'm trying to sort of tackle some of the stuff around my mental health this month, so I'm really interested in getting to this. The author of this is a disabled author as well, and so I really want to do some work in sort of promoting this book as part of the work that I want to do with kind of getting some books that maybe wouldn't traditionally be read out there. there. So I'm really keen to read this. I got this from Scholastic on a really good deal. I saw some advertising on Instagram that they were having a sale and I got a really good discount with that. So that was also great. But yes, this is You and Me, My Heartstrings, and I think I will try and get to this month. I'm realizing at this point that this is probably too ambitious a TBR, although as I say, I will just read kind of what I'm in the mood for. But another book that's kind of on my radar is Like a Charm by Ellie McNicoll. This is a middle grade, so this would be the first middle grade that I've read. I have a few other middle grades I'm interested in as well, such as Amari and the Night Brothers. So it might be that I read one of those which are shorter than Like a Charm, but Like a Charm has got some really good reviews and I've seen some other people on BookTube talking about it. So I'm interested to get to this. I also think it's a really interesting premise. I will just read the blurb of this because I think it's more interesting than how I could retell this. But Edinburgh is a city filled with magical creatures. No one can see them except Ramya Knox. As she is pulled into her family's world of secrets and spells, Ramya wrong, Ramya sets out to discover the truth about the hidden folk with only 3 words of warning from her grandfather: beware the sirens. Plunged into an adventure that will change everything, Ramya is about to learn that there is more to her powers than she ever imagined. I would have loved to have read this if I was this age. I also think this cover is absolutely gorgeous. I got this from Waterstones on a deal. So I'm very interested to read this. As I say, I do have some other middle grades as well, so particularly Amari and the Night Brothers and Onyeka and the Academy of the Sun. I also have Skander as well, Skander and the Unicorn Thief. I have so many books to read, it's kind of overwhelming. I really need to stop buying more books before reading the books I have. So I have a lot of middle grade that I'm interested in reading this month, so hopefully I'll at least get to one of them. I then have graphic novels, and of the graphic novels I've owned, I've made a pretty good dent in the number of them. So I've actually read more of the graphic novels on my shelves than I own. But in terms of ones that I would like to get to, first we have The Sad Ghost Club. This was recommended by a few people on BookTube as kind of something you might like if you love Heartstopper, and Heartstopper changed my life. So I'm really keen to read this. I also think that The Sad Ghost Club will be good for me because it's kind of following people that struggle with anxiety or are feeling like they're really alone. And it says on the back, this is not a sad story, though it begins with a struggle and anxious swirling thoughts, but sometimes even the worst of days can surprise you. Join the Sad Ghost Club and find your kindred spirits. You are not alone. And I just think this book would be very important for me. I have this and the second one already. It won't take me that long to read because it's a graphic novel with not a lot of words. It's like primarily drawings and everyone in it is a ghost. And I guess that's kind of how they're represented in this book. So I would really like to get to this month. The other sort of graphic novel series that I'm partway through, and so ideally I need to try and finish it rather than just stopping at volume 4, is Fence. So if you haven't heard of Fence, again, this is something that was sort of mentioned as like, if you love Heartstopper, you might love this. And I do love Fence, they were right. So Fence follows some teenage boys who study at a fence academy. So fence as in the sport, I mean, you can probably tell that from the cover of this book. You sort of get the history of some of the boys in terms of kind of how they've ended up there. They're all kind of there competing for different reasons. They all have really different personalities. There's some gay romance in here. I really enjoy this series. I loved the first one. The second and third one, particularly the third one is a bit slower in my opinion. A lot of people really loved it, but I found the third one slower, but I especially love 1 and 2. So I'm keen to get a bit further through this series. So this is volume 4. I don't own volume 5, but I'll need to buy that one. I think it's out now. One of the things that I find a bit confusing with Fence is knowing what to read in what order, because I think it was originally a webcomic and then so sort of different chapters of it got put together in different books. But then some novels have been written as well, and I don't know where they fall in the story. So I'm just going to keep going with the graphic novels for now. But whenever I try and Google it to figure out what order I should read it in, I cannot get a good answer on that. So I'm going to finish the graphic novels and then get to the novels, I guess. I would really at least like to read volume 4, but ideally I need to buy volume 5 to read volume 5 as well. So now let's get into the fantasies that I would like to read. So the first one is Jade War by Fonda Lee. So Jade City was the book that got me back into reading back in February this year, and it admittedly, and you know, this is part of me wanting to be sort of real on this channel, it took me a while to get through Jade City. I did read a lot of fantasy when I was younger, and I come from a family of fantasy readers. My boyfriend reads a lot of fantasy, I really, really love fantasy. It's just, it does take me longer to get through. I don't have a huge amount of time that I can kind of give to reading. I'm also used to listening to fantasy on audiobook, and I am listening to Eragon on audiobook at the moment, which is a series that I have listened to before, but I don't think I finished, or at least I don't remember it. I remember the first one, but don't remember the others. So I am listening to that at the moment. So in theory, I could add that to this list, but I will probably only really listen to the audiobook when I'm traveling, and we're not traveling anywhere in August. So I feel like it's going to take me a really long time to get through Eragon, but I do have Audible. And so I know a lot of people listen to the Greenbone Saga on audio, and so maybe I should see whether I like the audiobook version, and then I would get through this a lot quicker. But sometimes I worry that I won't get into an audiobook as much as a written book, so it's a difficult way up there. But yeah, I have been reading Jade War for several months at this point because I haven't really been dedicating a lot of time to it, even though I really, really enjoy this series, and I really do owe Jade City a lot for getting me back into reading. You have probably heard of the Greenbone Saga, but if you haven't, it basically follows two families who are part of crime syndicates, and the country that they live in has a substance, jade, and jade can enhance an individual's abilities such as strength and kind of other martial art abilities, and so the crime syndicates want to have control over jade. It's such an interesting premise. It's very much an urban fantasy. It's very political as well. There is a lot to get your head around in terms of the sort of way that the country works, and it really grows in size. So Jade City is quite small in terms of sort of geographic area that it covers, and I know that it gets bigger as we move through the series. It also spans a lot of years through the series. What I really like about Fonda Lee is her writing is just beautiful. It's really engaging and gripping, and it really draws you into the story, but also she really isn't afraid to just take turns in the story like I didn't see coming in Jade City. I remember gasping at some of them, so I am super interested to get through this. I just don't know if this month is going to be the month that I focus on it or not because of said work stuff, which means that I don't have as much brain capacity as I have in other months of the year. So we will see, but this is always on there as a thing that I'm currently reading, and as I say, so is Eragon. I don't know that this one really counts as a fantasy because it's more of a Greek mythology, but I'm going to include it in this, and this is Ariadne. So this is one of those books that I bought because of BookTube, although to be honest, I don't even know if I'd been on BookTube and BookTok as much at that point. I more bought it for the cover. I am 100%, and if you don't like this, I'm not the person to subscribe to, but I am absolutely the type of person who buys a book based on what it looks like, okay? I just am. I am absolutely a judge a book by its cover person, and Ariadne is one of the prettiest books I own. So I picked this up, I think, in like W.H. Smith or something, and yeah, I think I didn't even necessarily know what Ariadne was about. To be honest though, I started reading Ariadne when I bought it, and I am on page 63, and I have not read this in about 6 months. I really wasn't vibing with it at the time. The writing style, I don't know if lyrical writing is for me, and I feel like the writing style in this is semi-lyrical. I also don't know the original story of, I think it's King Minos. So it's like the story of the Minotaur, and I don't really know the original story, and I felt like it wasn't explaining it for somebody who didn't know the original story, so I felt a little bit left out. But that's basically what the book is. It's a retelling of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. So we follow Princess Ariadne and her sister Phaedra, and then she kind of meets Theseus, who is the Prince of Athens, who arrives in Crete to sacrifice himself to the Minotaur, but Ariadne falls in love with him and wants to save him. And that's kind of the point of the book that I'm at. But I would like to finish it so that it's off of my like pending books that I've been reading. Also, I think the longer I go, the more I'm going to forget what I've already read. So ideally, I would like to finish Ariadne, but there's many other books I would rather read instead of Ariadne, and I could just DNF it. So if you don't know, DNF means like did not finish or do not finish. I could DNF it, but I'm not sure I'm disliking it that much to DNF. I did DNF a book earlier this year, and I don't know, I've definitely not talked about it anywhere on my channel so far. Maybe I'll talk about it later in the year, but I did DNF that book because I knew I didn't want to finish it. But I'm not sure I don't want to finish Ariadne, particularly as it's such a popular book. I kind of feel like I would like to read it. So There we go, Ariadne. Another book that I'm keen to get to is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is the Fairy Loot edition. This was the first Fairy Loot book that I got. It's so beautiful. This is one of the prettiest books I own. Even though it doesn't have like stenciled edges and stuff, the end papers are just so beautiful, as is the like foiling on the hardcover. So I am really keen to get to this also because I think that the story is super interesting. It's a 1001 Nights sort of Arabian Nights retelling, and so I think that I would just really enjoy the story. I'm really big into Disney and I'm going to Disney World soon, and so I feel like this would be a really good book for me to read. So I would really like to get to this ideally. I also think it probably wouldn't take me that long because the text is quite big, right? Because it's a YA in a hardcover. So yeah, ideally I would like to get to this one. And the last book on this list, I didn't really realise how big this list was, but I suppose my shelves do look a mess, so I should have realised, is The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. So you probably have heard of The Atlas 6. It's a huge book on BookTok in particular. I think BookTok is the reason that this book kind of went from being self-published to traditionally published, because it got so hyped. And I just haven't got to it yet. And I am really interested to read it, particularly as I read My Mechanical Romance, which is by Olivie Blake, but under her, like, not her pen name, Olivie Blake. It's under her normal name, which is Alexin Farrell Falmouth. And I absolutely love My Mechanical Romance. Now, that was a YA romance. It was a really special book for other reasons, and you can read the review on my Goodreads. But I really liked her writing style, and so I figure I would probably like The Atlas 6. So I am really keen to get to this. It's basically, I mean, this kind of sums it up, I think. 6 extraordinary musicians, 5 chances to win, 1 secret society. So I think you can kind of get the idea. It's basically a competition to see who will live. I think the kind of from the beginning, you know that one of them will die. And so it's kind of, the story is following sort of which one of those it's going to be. But it's basically these 6 people accepting to join the Alexandrian Society, and then 5 of them will win. So also, this is the Waterstones exclusive edition. Somebody said somewhere they thought this edition was horrible, and I was like, this is one of the prettiest books I own. I absolutely love these frayed edges. I love the cover. I'm not sure if we have anything on the hardcover though. No, so it is just plain on the hardcover, whereas I know that I think Fairy Loot and Illumicrate maybe have both done this book, and so people like really love the editions there, but I think this is gorgeous. It's a Waterstones exclusive edition, so yeah, I would like to try and get to this. I think I would probably find it a really interesting book, so I would like to get to that. So that's it. I really hope you enjoy this style of video. It might be that as I get more confident with reading or confident with the number of books I could read, that maybe I could play some kind of TBR game or prompts. But for now, this is just the reality of what it's like to be a mood reader with a full-time job. I would much rather just read the books I want to read so that I get through some books. The feeling of finishing a book, that like little thrill you get when you finish a book, is something that I'm constantly chasing. And so I would much rather read books that are going to get me that kind of win and get me towards my Goodreads goal, rather than sort of feeling pressured to read something else, at least while I'm less confident a reader. So that's kind of the plan. I hope that you will stick around to see a little bit more about that. Obviously, if I read all of those, that would be a whopping fantastic donation to Polar Bear International, but we all know there's no way I can read all of those books, but I do hope that I will make a serious dent in them. So that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed the first video that you're watching on this channel. I feel a little bit scared about putting some of this content out there, but I'm really kind of keen to sort of start to focus more on this book content. I think that reading is going to be a really good part of some of my kind of mental health changes in this new season of my life, and I am really excited to share some of that content with you. So I really hope that you will stick around to see a little bit more about what I'm doing in terms of my book content. As mentioned, because I'm a new channel, any kind of likes or subscribes that I get make a huge difference to me. So if you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate a like. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I do also have an Instagram. For now, I'm planning to keep one Instagram account that I share between my planning content and my book content. We will see how that goes longer term, but that's what I've decided to do for now, is one Instagram, but 2 YouTube channels. You can find me on Instagram at peace.love.plan, because that's what I'm known as on Instagram. And as I said, if you are interested in checking out planning content, you can see my planning YouTube down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.